When the last traces of bitterness vanished and the acorns turned soft and mild, the real work began. Those small, pale pieces didn't look like much, certainly not like something that could keep a family alive. But in the hands of a medieval peasant, they became the foundation of survival. The next step was roasting, the oldest and most universal cooking method known to humankind. No fancy tools, no recipes, just fire and instinct. Over a bed of glowing embers, the boiled acorns were laid out to dry and toast. The hiss of moisture meeting heat filled the silence, and a nutty aroma replaced the damp scent of raw wood. Slowly, their color deepened from beige to golden brown. It was the same transformation that's taken place for thousands of years. Primitive, simple, and yet astonishingly effective. That moment, when the first roasted acorn was pulled from the coals and tasted, must have felt like victory. After hours of labor, the flavor was rich and earthy, almost like roasted chestnut. The bitterness was gone, replaced by warmth. For the first time in weeks, the taste of real food filled their mouths. But the acorns weren't just eaten whole. In the villages, the next step was always grinding, turning them into flour. With no mills or machinery, it was all done by hand. Imagine a heavy river stone, worn smooth by decades of use, moving rhythmically over a flat slab of rock. Every push broke down the roasted acorns a little more, turning them into coarse meal, then a powder that clung to fingers and smelled faintly sweet. It was exhausting work. Arms burned, backs ached, but slowly the flour accumulated. This was the hidden strength of the medieval peasantry, an endless patience that turned monotony into survival. That flour, dark and oily, was their treasure. Mixed with water or whatever grains they could find, barley, millet, even ground weeds, it became dough. The dough was thick and heavy, and when flattened onto a hot stone beside the fire, it cooked into dense cakes. There was no lightness, no soft crumb like modern bread, but it filled the stomach, and that was all that mattered. One bite offered warmth and energy that could last through a day of labor in the cold. In famine years, that small mercy felt like luxury. But not all acorns ended up in the hands of the desperate. History, with its strange sense of irony, shows how time can twist meaning. By the 15th century, these same nuts that once symbolized poverty began to appear on the tables of Europe's elite. Physicians praised their supposed health benefits, and chefs transformed them into delicacies. A Renaissance recipe describes an acorn pie made with butter, milk, cheese, cinnamon, sugar, and rosewater. A dish far removed from its humble beginnings. What was once a food of starvation became a sign of sophistication. The contrast was almost cruel. For peasants, acorns meant the fight to stay alive. For nobles, they became fashion. Still, behind every elegant dish lay the same core truth. The acorn was proof of human persistence. It was a reminder that knowledge and effort could overcome nature's cruelty. The people who learned to leach tannins and grind flour without tools didn't just survive. They preserved a system of understanding that reached back to the dawn of civilization. Archaeologists have found specialized acorn processing tools dating back over 7,000 years. Burned granaries from the Iron Age filled with acorns suggest that this was no passing custom, but a foundation of life itself. Across generations, across continents, the oak tree quietly sustained humanity through countless disasters. The story of acorns isn't just about food, it's about adaptation, the way people turned hardship into innovation. When everything else failed, they turned to the forest, learned its language, and unlocked its secrets. The oak didn't give freely, okay? It demanded effort, patience, and respect. But for those willing to work, it gave everything. As the Great Famine finally faded in 1322, after 7 long years, Europe emerged, scarred, but wiser. The memory of those bitter winters and the lessons carved from hardship shaped generations. It taught humility, that survival was never guaranteed. It taught resilience, that the smallest things, overlooked and forgotten, could hold salvation. And it taught a truth still relevant today. Survival isn't luck, it's labor. Real, relentless, unforgiving work. If you ever find yourself walking through a forest in autumn, look down at the scattered acorns beneath your feet. They may seem like nothing, but each one carries the story of a civilization that refused to give up. Every crack in the shell holds echoes of fireside grinding stones, hungry families, and the quiet triumph of turning poison into nourishment. These roasted acorns born from struggle taste like history itself, earthy, bitter, and sweet all at once. If this journey through medieval survival fascinated you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Would you ever try to recreate this ancient process just to experience what survival once meant? Share your answer in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you enjoy uncovering how our ancestors endured the impossible, make sure to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals. There are countless forgotten techniques, ancient recipes, and survival stories still waiting to be rediscovered.